Welcome back, D2 sports fans. It's another episode of the D2 Nation Podcast. I'm your co-host, Wayne Cavadi, and joining me, as always, is the great Bethany Bowman. Good to see you again, Bethany.
Yeah, it's been too long. We took a week break, but excited to be back and excited to have a special guest on today. Thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. And while most of our attention this spring has been on the baseball diamond, and rightfully so, we must not forget spring football is upon us.
That's right. The USFL started. That's pretty cool. The NFL draft is a little over a week away, and the reigning D2 football national champions are back in action for spring football. So joining us today is head coach of the national champion Ferris State Bulldogs, Tony Annese. Welcome to the Nation, Coach.
Thank you, Bethany. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited you're here. As we were talking about before the show, we had Jared on while you were on your championship run, and now we get to talk to you about what happens next. But before we get to that, we like to always start off with kind of your road to Ferris State. So why don't you start off by telling our listeners how you got here to become the Ferris State Bulldogs head coach?
Well, as a high school head coach for 22 years in various places in Michigan. Was fortunate enough to get the Grand Rapids Community College job, which is a JUCO. I was there for 3 years, and then got an interview with the Ferris gig and got hired, and 10 years there. So 9 seasons, and it's went really fast.
Was it something you were looking for, was to climb that ladder? Or was it kind of unexpected and you're just like, let's go for it?
No, it was definitely unexpected. I never thought about being a college coach. I really always kind of envisioned myself as just being a high school coach, and I was always happy being a high school coach. And so never really aimed to be a college coach, and it just kind of happened.
Yeah, well, I bet Ferris State is glad that it kind of happened, because it's been working out pretty well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Ferris State is one of the best runs in recent D2 football history. The Bulldogs have reached the national semifinals, Coach, 4 times since 2016, and the one year that you didn't was a loss in the quarterfinals. But it wasn't always like that. So, Coach, take us back to when you started, what the program was like then, and when you knew you had something special you could build on.
Wow. Well, first off, I never took a job in my whole career that I thought I was going to fail at more than the Ferris State job. So the Ferris State job scared the heck out of me, truthfully. So I didn't know. I really didn't know if it would happen the way it happened. I did have a quarterback by the name of Jason Vanderlaan when I arrived at Ferris State, and he had a special skill set, as in he rushed for 5,950 yards in his 4 years starting at quarterback for us. And so 2-time Harlan Hill Trophy winner. And so I say it, Jason Vanderlaan. I had a guy by the name of Justin Zimmer, who plays for the Buffalo Bills, Jake Lampman, who was in the NFL. So all 3 of those guys were in the NFL at one point in time. And so those 3 guys just kind of propelled us into, everybody says, we got the greatest culture in the world, but, I think that what they propelled us into was just kind of a winning mentality. And so, I'd rather say a winner's mentality rather than a culture. So they helped us get to the winning mentality, and it's kind of grown every year. And so Jason's last year was 2015, and everybody in our league was, well, let's see what they can do after Jason Vanderlaan leaves. And then in 16 we went to the semis, lost to Northwest Missouri State, who won it the national championship. And so then it's been winning in the playoffs every year. In 14 and 15, we were in the playoffs, but we lost in the first round in both those seasons. And then 16, we made a run to the semis, and 17, the quarters, 18 finals. Obviously lost the national championship that year to Valdosta. And 19, we lost to the national champion, West Florida, and then we won it in 2021. So it's been pretty incredible.
Yeah. And it started with Vanderlaan, like you said, but we could kind of call you quarterback you, right? You got Vanderlaan, you got J. Rue Campbell, Jared Bernhardt last year, even Evan and Malik. When I was talking to Rob, he mentioned that crazy stat that, what is it? Every quarterback you've coached has a 6 touchdown game. It's crazy. So What is it that you look for in a quarterback for this offense? Or is it just that you look for an athletic kind of guy that you could adapt to him?
Yeah, we try to, develop our scheme around the quarterback skill set. And that's changed over time. And I speak at Glazier clinics, and sometimes people are like, why do you change your offense all the time? And it really does change according to the skill set of the quarterback. And so that's one. Then two, we, in our 9 seasons here, our quarterbacks have led the nation in rushing yardage 8 out of the 9 years. So we always like that dual threat quarterback. We have a lot of design quarterback runs, which, gives us a +1 in the run game, because now our running backs, instead of carrying the ball and the quarterback handing them the ball, now it gives us an extra blocker at the point of attack. And so that's kind of the expectation. And then we really, what Evan can do and what Malik can do and what Jared could do. Well, nobody can do it like Jared. I mean, even Jason was a great running quarterback, but Jared, wow. So really, ultimately, it's just trying to play their skill set. And development of quarterbacks is a key. I always talk about the having a couple ready, because Jason went through 4 seasons and literally missed 1 play in 4 seasons. He got hit, I think, his redshirt freshman year, and came out for 1 play, but that was it. Well, then in 2016, we had Reggie Bell, who was, a great player. He was our quarterback in 2016 and 2017, and he got hurt. So then, we had to plug in a quarterback there, and then in 2017, Reggie got hurt, and we had to plug in another quarterback. And in 2019, Jay Rue got hurt, and we had to plug in another quarterback. So we've had to, play a lot of quarterbacks, and the way we practice, I think, helps us a lot. Like tonight, we just got off the practice field, and 5 quarterbacks take regular reps for us. And Jared mentioned that even in the interview when you guys had him on, he split equally reps during the season with 3 other quarterbacks. So Jesse Rivera also took first string reps for us last fall. And the biggest kind of disagreement I had with Jared is I tried to give Jared a few more of Jesse's reps one day, and Jared wouldn't take them. And I'm like, dude, take Jesse's reps. He's like, no, coach, I'm good. And so it's the first time he really didn't do what I asked him to do. That was our biggest disagreement over the whole course of time he was with me.
Yeah, could be a lot worse. One question to follow up on the quarterbacks is also, and you saw it last year, is you've always had great offensive line play. Some of those guys, I believe, are moving on from the last few years. What's that offensive line look like heading, right now it's spring, but what do you think about heading into the fall?
Yeah, that truthfully will be our biggest challenge. We had six six-year guys last year on the offensive line. And so, everybody says it, everybody that watched the national championship game, well, they only threw it 2 times the national championship game in the first half, which I think, I thought was awesome, right? I mean, we scored 41 points and threw it twice, but and so, going into the Shepherd game, which was the semifinal game, we had more passing yards than rushing yards for the season. Shockingly, people would not believe that, but we did. And then, when the weather's tough and you got to win, one game to hoist that trophy, you're not going to fiddle around with the ball. And so we really put, we really kind of hung our hat with the offensive line, and they were awesome. And so, that's going to be our challenge, truthfully, is to replace those guys. I like our young guys, but they're young guys. And so we'll see how confident they are, to kind of put the team on their back when we have to. And that's what we did when we really needed to. Our offensive line really dominated the season for us.
I've got one more follow-up question on that too, Coach, because you said that, no one could do it like Jared. And I feel like this is a question I can only ask in the post-Jared Bernhardt era. But now that, it worked out for you guys, it worked out for him in the best possible way with the national championship. Truthfully, was he an experiment? Because, he has such the unique story of being a lacrosse player, the player of the year in Division I. What did you really see from him when you decided to give him that chance to play football again?
Well, let me just put it out there right now, Bethany. If there is another Jared Bernhardt out there playing lacrosse, call me. I'll play you tomorrow. So, it's just one of those things where his just skill set was amazing. And I even told my wife, I said, I don't even know if I really want to coach anymore now that Jared's not around, And so it's one of those things where he's just had such a special skill set. His capacity to make people miss and his lateral movement was just unbelievable. And so, plus he was just such a pleasure to coach. He was the lowest maintenance human being in the world. In fact, Jake, I shouldn't be telling you these stories, but Jake Boonstra, our center, found out he didn't have a pillow. And so he slept on the floor and on a mattress. He just laid on the floor and didn't even have a pillow. He just used a blanket as a pillow. And so they're like, Bernhardt, why don't you have a pillow? He's like, I don't know. Why would I need a pillow? And so that's just the nature of who he is. He is the lowest maintenance human being ever. And so, as a quarterback and as a head coach, our relationship was wow, I don't have to do anything with this kid. He's just going to do it on his own, And so he was incredible. He was just fun to coach. And so, yeah, I don't know if it was a great experiment as people saw. That's almost mindless judgment as to, would you take somebody like that who's, if he stayed healthy, he probably would have rushed for 2,000 yards, Would you take somebody like that and make him your quarterback? Of course, anybody would. But I was just amazed that more people just didn't take the time. I don't care what it is. Literally, if there's somebody who's a sumo wrestler right now and wants to, star at quarterback for us, let me know. Give me a call. If you can help us win a national championship, I don't care who you are and how, what you look like or, what sport you played in the past. I'll take you for sure.
Yeah.
One of the impressive things I remember that you're mentioning about, he is low maintenance, but he, here he was in, my years, 2020 playing for Maryland. And I remember when we were talking before the championship game in the presser, you mentioned that he would text you about new plays while he's winning player of the year at lacrosse and playing for a national championship. And he's still taking the time to be like, hey, coach, am I missing anything? And it was just, every time you heard something new about Jared, it was just this kid is just remarkable. Everything he does is just this great person story type of player.
Incredible person, incredible, just so committed as an athlete. We weren't even off the practice field for our first practice this spring, and he already texted me and said, hey, how'd practice go today? It's man, we're not even off the practice field, and he's already texting. And so I talked to him the other day. I said, hey, you've been watching practice? He goes, well, I watch it for a while, but he says, I'm training now. I don't have really time, but he says, I'm pretty impressed with how the team's looking. It's just, he just loves it. The other day, Maryland and Ohio State were playing in lacrosse on the Big Ten Network, and so I texted him. Ohio State was ahead for a while, and at halftime they're tied. And I said, man, Ohio State looks, big and physical. And he said, nothing the Terps can't handle. So he's on top of everything, I swear.
Awesome to hear. Well, back to the team. Ferris State hasn't lost a regular season game in 3 years. The only 2 losses over that span have been in the championship game and the semifinals. Do you ever feel a pressure on your shoulders to keep that going, or is it more a comfort zone where the Bulldogs truly believe they can win every game?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't for me, pressure is just something that I put on myself on everything. And so, the 2 games that we lost are the 2 most memorable games in my head. And so, if I go back and analyze things. I think of the West Florida loss and that Valdosta national championship loss. So that's just the way, I really think, sadly, I should be able to enjoy those wins, right? But no, I focus on the losses. So pressure is kind of a self-induced thing. I do feel like, I have high expectations for this next year. And I say this all the time. If I didn't have high expectations, shame on me. My coaches, my assistant coaches and my players should be like, what's wrong with this dude? I mean, we expect to be the best. And so we work, we work to be the best. In my opinion, we're the hardest working team in the nation, in the weight room, and our commitment to our guys pursuing, their very best that's in them. And so, our expectation is to be at our best. We don't want to be scoreboard watchers. So I don't ever tell them, winning and losing is everything. I just always say being at your best is everything. And so that's the approach we're taking again. And we've been able to do that, quite successfully. And I think that really is the key to our success. Truthfully, is we're tough, man. We're mentally tough, and we're determined to be the best in everything we do.
So the last few years, it's been, what do we do to get over that hump? What do we do to get that win? Now you have the national championship win. So the question for you, coach, is what's it take to repeat?
Well, I mean, it's obviously a hard thing to do. Everybody that talks about repeating probably doesn't repeat because they put, the end goal in front of the things you need to do from a day to day. So I just tell my guys, don't think about repeating. Don't think about winning a game. Think about being the best they can be, every day. And so I just say, win the day, like today on the practice field, win the day. If you didn't win the day today, then maybe somebody beat you on the field today. And so I know that sounds like coach talk, but that's the way we talk. That's the way we think. That's the way we conduct business. And so ultimately our initiative is to be the best we can be in the weight room, if we're going to the weight room, in the classroom, and on the practice field. And then in the off season, just doing the same thing. And we never really worry about winning and losing. In fact, when we ended up being number one in the nation, which I guess was the first time Ferris was ever ranked number one in the nation, it was, after West Florida loss. And so all of a sudden we were number one in the nation, and literally not one single person on our team even said anything about it. Nobody, I still don't know if they even knew. And so, I love that kind of business, like they know, our guys know, you just can't focus on the wrong things. And so, to focus on repeating would probably force us to not repeat, because people who think that way typically don't repeat. They got to work on doing the best they can do every day to win the first game. And that's kind of our goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of staying with this, you talk about team toughness and being the best they can be. But you look at it in that super region alone for you guys it's almost winning a championship just to get to the championship, right? So does being in that, you have the rivalry with Grand Valley State, which is one of the best in all of D2 football. You have this nice little postseason kind of rivalry with Northwest Missouri State, right? Like you played them a whole bunch of times over the last few years, and you still have perennial powerhouses like Harding and OBU and all these other teams to worry about. So, does that help toughen this team up, just knowing that they have to get through that alone just to have a chance?
It freaks me out. Like literally, you just made me nervous again. But like with just to say we could play with Northwest Missouri State, like in one game a year, like if we were even competitive, back in 2014 or something, would totally blow my mind. And then, we've played them now 4 times, but like they're still the standard. In my opinion, they're still the standard. And they had a great team this past year. They've had to come to Big Rapids now 3 straight years. So, we lost to them in 16 at their place, but they've had to come to Big Rapids, and that helps us a little bit. And so that means we got to win a lot of games to get Northwest Missouri State on the road to come to Big Rapids. And so those things matter. That means we got to beat Grand Valley in the regular season, which we've been able to do under most conditions. And that means we potentially have to beat them again, which we've only beaten them, twice in a season just this past year. This is the third time we played them twice in a season, and in 15 and in 16 we split, and we finally got over a hump and beat them twice this year. But the prospect of having somebody that's that close away, hour away from us, and GLIAC rival, and having to beat them in the playoffs after beating them in the regular season, that's daunting. And it was our first round game. And so, let alone the fact that Harding scares the heck out of me. And their head coach knows it. Nobody wants to play Harding. I guess Northwest Missouri State has a formula for slowing them down. But other than that, I don't know why anybody would want to play Harding. Their system, their offensive system, scares the heck out of you. And then they take so much time. They take the play clock and shorten the game. And their defense is really good. So, if you could help maybe readjust the super regions, I would be happy, And I'm not lying to you when I tell you the GLIAC has lost GLIAC members, because if they leave the GLIAC, and let's just say a lot of them went to the GMAC, so I'll just say it, they went to the GMAC, now they're in Super Region 1. And so, some of these guys are thinking that way. And so it's overwhelming. For us to even win a region once would blow my brains out, to be able to do it. And for us to be able to do it the way we've done it is incredible.
Well, Coach, I can tell we're getting your heart racing talking about the region. So let's move it on to a little more lighthearted question here. What makes D2 so special for you and your players?
Oh my gosh. Well, let's just put it this way. We are not spoiled. In fact, if there's a hard way to do something, we do it. For us, particularly us, our guys are hardened by the fact that we walked out on, what is today? April what?
18th.
April 18th. We walked outside today on April 18th and practiced in snow. It was snowing. My former OC, as I've been on here, my former OC, who's now at UMass, has already texted me and said, "Are you kidding me? You were in snow today?" And so he's obviously on our film watching it already. But so we're hardened by those kind of things. But we played in a snowstorm in Thanksgiving weekend. There was snow, a little bit of snow against Shepherd in the semifinal game. And hopefully, I'm glad McKinney didn't have snow, but it was cold down there on the day we were down there. And so it hardens us. Beyond that, I always just say this to Division I coaches, they want to preach toughness to their players. But my question is, how do you preach toughness when there's so much entitlement? And their entitlement at a whole different level. To me, I'll get on my soapbox here. The NIL, okay, if people really want to talk about fairness, then they should take every dollar of NIL money and spread it across every division, scholarship football, and every sport. So then let's just say the women's water polo player, she gets a portion of the NIL money because it's money that is coming to, athletes. Mm-hmm. For Division I players, just to gain NIL money right now, it's to me, it's it just really makes the game worse, because for me, then I got players who are saying, wait a second, I started as a true freshman. I'm this for Ferris State. maybe I can get a scholarship at a bigger school, and then maybe I can get NIL money. That's not why you go to college. And so, so we're tough, we're hardened. You know, we've got Javier Thomas playing for the, for Houston, who was, AFC player of the week, defensive player of the week, 1 week. We got Zach Sealer, was ranked in the top 4 in the nation, in the NFL for interior D lineman, rated. We got Justin Zimmer. I mean, we got guys that have learned how to really be tough, and then they go to the NFL, and then they're superstars because they're tough, and they know how to do the things that sometimes people are just given too much. So that's my take on that particular topic.
No, I like it, and it's hard not to agree with you. And I'm a Texans fan. I definitely remember when Thomas won the Player of the Week. I was very excited to see that. But Coach, just because you won a national championship doesn't mean you get to escape the D2 Nation hot seat. So we're going to close out the show with just some fun questions here. You ready?
Yep.
All right, Bethany, go.
All right. Who is a coach that you've admired over the years, and who's your favorite team?
Oh my gosh, my favorite team, I'll answer that one first, is Ferris State, the Ferris State University Bulldogs, nor will I like anybody else.
Fair enough.
I've never watched college football with any desire for a team to win or lose. I watch it to kind of examine the games, but there's only, people ask me all the time, well, who do you root for, Michigan or Michigan State? I don't care. Now, when I was a high school coach, I rooted for, some of my guys that played for me at high school that went to Michigan or Michigan State. So that kind of changed me. And coaches that I admire, I have to go back in time a little bit. I always thought Bill Curry, from just teaching people how to really coach. I think he was, a great teacher. And even though his win-loss record wasn't great, he just really was grounded in the principles of how to treat your players, and that's a big deal for us. Like, we spend a lot of time, like I always just say, the catalyst of our greatness is love, and so we want to spend a lot of time making sure that we're treating the players the way they need to be treated for them to flourish. But I like Nick Saban a lot too. I've always, he's been in the Midwest, so there was a time I would say that he would know who I was and that kind of deal. But now he's been out of the Midwest for a while. But he's a pretty good, he's a good teacher. He knows how to, teach. And when he goes to clinics, he spends a lot of time teaching. And this, I'm talking about, 15, 20 years ago. But so.
I promise Coach Saban knows the D2 national champion coach.
Well, we better make sure that he does. So you guys let him know that. One of my best buddies is his director of player personnel, Bob Welton. So I'll call Bob and tell him to tell Coach Saban, make sure we'll win it all.
All right, it gets a little hard here. What's the best sports movie of all time?
Oh my gosh, sports movie. Sports movie.
Yeah, I told you it gets tough.
Sports movie. My wife keeps saying, I'm trying to think of something that my wife's trying to answer this question. And I'm agreeing with her, but I wish she didn't say it, because then I would have said it easier. I don't want to. But yeah, it's Hoosiers. It's Hoosiers. Yeah, it's a classic for sure.
It is. I love it.
Your guys, I'm sure, kind of take this over, but if you had your choice of what music was in the pregame mix, what would you be playing over the speakers?
Oh my gosh. So I listen to really soft music. Like, it's back in the day, they'd call it easy rock. But I listen to the Eagles, Boston, Bob Seger I like. Old school stuff, REO Speedwagon, Journey. I would say that would be the top of my playlist right there.
There was a good 3 years of my life where the only thing I listened to was Journey. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're with me then.
What's the best Eagles song, Coach?
Oh my gosh. I can't even tell you which one I like the best. I really don't.
It's really getting hot seat now.
What's your favorite food?
If I had my choice, so my body doesn't like my favorite food, just so you know that. So what I like to eat and what I do eat are two different things, but I would have barbecued spare ribs probably. Yeah. Or fried chicken. I love fried chicken, but I can't eat those kind of things. Yeah. So
what is your most binge-worthy TV or Netflix show or series?
I mean, I watch sports, I watch Seinfeld, and I watch Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Two great ones. Two great ones right there.
That's it. That's all I have interest in. I can't stand binging on these Netflix things because I want an ending too quickly.
Yeah.
And so I watched Ozark, and by the time it's in the second or third, I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm caught up in this world, and it's way too long, and I don't have time for it. So I don't really like to start it because then I know, it's going to be a long time before I finish it.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. If you weren't a football coach, what would you be doing?
I guess if you want to just analyze it this way, I'd probably still be in public education. It would have been weird being just a teacher and not a coach, because I always just thought, the coaching was extensions of the classroom. But I love being a teacher and I love being around young people. And so I'd probably do something associated with a school still. I think potentially I would have been a great principal, somebody that all the kids would like and teachers would hate. Probably how I would be, because I'm an advocate for kids more so. Like when I was a teacher, even like the day I hated the most was like the day that students didn't come and teachers had like PD days or whatever they're called.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And not surprising. I think that's a pretty, that's the answer I would expect. But we do want to thank you for joining us. We want to let you go get some rest, stay warm, stay out of that snow. And we wish you good luck and have fun at the spring game this week.
Oh yeah, we're Friday, we're going to have the game, and then we're going straight. We're basically, the game ends at 5. We're going straight over across campus, and we're doing a ring ceremony at 6. We're going to do a banquet and a ring ceremony. And we got a lot of alums back, like most of the NFL guys, like Tavi or Thomas is going to be there. And so most of the NFL guys are going to be there. So, and then Saturday we're golfing. So we're going to have a great weekend.
Awesome.
Are you good at golf, Coach?
What's that?
You any good at golf?
Oh my gosh, I love to golf.
Didn't you say at the post-game presser at the championship you were going to take a few days to go golfing?
Yeah, no, I did actually too. I had my golf clubs in my van, and we drove straight to Florida from Texas, and we went golfing. Yeah, and so I love to golf. I love to play pickleball. So those are the two things that, if I could spend most of my time away from football, those would probably be the two things I'd be doing.
Not a bad way to spend your time.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you again. And remember, D2 Nation, before we go, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and just about anywhere else you want to listen. Give us a follow, and we'll see you next week on the D2 Nation.